Hello, I'm Kieran O'Connor, and this is episode 8 of the Calculated Risks podcast. Today, we are joined by Leroy Brito. Leroy is a comedian, a writer, a producer, a proud family man, and someone who spent 15 years in agency recruitment. You might recognise him from his own show on BBC, live in Cardiff, and from his guest appearance in Baby Reindeer. Hello, Leroy.
How's it going, mate?
I'm very good today, and you?
Yeah, good. Good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while.
Absolutely. Yeah, it feels like a while since we last spoke, so I'm looking forward to an hour where we can catch up on some...
Shoot the breeze as well, yeah.
Yeah, some more things that are important outside of recruitment. So I don't know if you have a copy of this.
I haven't yet. No, I've been looking forward to
here it
this.
is. I'm sure you'll
Thank you very much.
frame that somewhere.
Did I make an appearance in this?
You did. You actually on the
lovely.
first couple of pages. I would sign it, but it'd be worth less then. So you'll have to keep that until I'm famous.
I'd appreciate if you did sign it. Oh, I can see.
Yeah, you've made it. You've made the cut, man.
Yeah, so I appreciate if you sign that.
That's no worries. So I appreciate you coming on as well. I'm sure you've done a few of these, or you have done a few of these, because I know you just mentioned. But I like to start the podcast in the same way every time. I'm trying to learn as much as I can from different people in different walks of life, and I'm sure the viewers will be as well. So the first question is all about risk, and I want to go back in time to like the first big risk you took, most likely professionally, maybe personally, and like how big was it for you at the time?
I suppose a big risk for me, professionally, as a comedian, would have been last year. So last year, you would have come to the first show of the Leroy tour in the Glee Club, which I filmed. I think you were in the front row, weren't you? So I filmed that. The BBC commissioners came down to see it, and they wanted to buy it off me. But I said no. And the reason for it, I wasn't happy with the performance. And I knew that I had a better performance and I could make it look better. So I went back to them with a proposal to actually redo it with a bigger budget in the Richard Burton Theatre. And they took a risk on me for me taking a risk on myself. And then hopefully it looks, infinitely better on
That
TV
definitely
now.
paid off.
Yeah.
And I remember that first show in the Glee Club, and I thought it was amazing. I was laughing. I know you digged me out a couple of times in the audience. I was laughing all night. And I was surprised that you said that, but obviously you view things differently
I came off stage gutted just with my performance. I felt I was a bit too aggressive. And there was only two people in that room who were unhappy or disappointed. That was myself and a huge agent who came all the way down from London to see me.
Really?
And, we were talking and she was going to sign me. And the next day she said it's not for her. And,
Why? Did they give any feedback?
Just feedback. She's working at a level where people are doing arena tours. And she didn't think I was ready to take that step up, which I appreciated, but I used it as motivation. And, and I thanked her earlier last year for that feedback because it pushed me, because I knew it. Nobody else could see it, but I knew it. And she saw it as well. And she was honest with me. And I've got a great relationship with her still. So, yeah.
Well, if you had to think about why she said that, do you think it? Do you understand why now? Was it?
Yeah, I know exactly. It wasn't me in that performance. I was too aggressive. It was disjointed, the material, I think, and it just wasn't the best performance I could have. It wasn't a reflection of me as a comedian. So yes, I was absolutely gutted coming off stage. But then in the blessing, when I got that text message the next day from her, my son, who was 18, was sat next to me. So I saw it for me just to show him how to react to disappointment, have that resilience, because he saw me the night before, with 350 people queuing up to see me. And then the next day you could see the lows. So it's how you react to those type of hardships.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
How to handle objections.
Yeah. Well, I've, working in recruitment for so many years, and going through stuff in life, being a dad at 18, you build up that resilience, which I'm trying to pass on to him now.
Nice. I like that. The second part to that question is like, how has your tolerance to risk changed now you're the age you are?
Yes,
and again, that's going to be a different answer to people we've had, because some people don't have families in their careers. But as a family man, like, with your 4 kids, and we'll come on to what you do for work in a bit, but, are you risk averse at the minute?
It's a weird one. I think I've always had to be risk averse just from being a dad at 18, just always had to, go out and work, not take, make sure the bills are paid, make sure the roof is over everyone's head. So I never really was in a situation where I was young enough to say, like, I'm going to Australia, I'm going to do this. Do you know what I mean? So it was really difficult. And then a big risk I took last year was when I left agency work, made redundant. And I just thought this is the time to just make that clean cut. Because I was managing it well. I was managing TV work, traveling around the country and still working full time. but I just needed at the age of 43 just to go all in, basically. And that's what the tour show's called. And just to back myself up, really bet on myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We got loads to talk about, but I want to go back for now. You know, we've met quite a few times, and I know quite a lot about you, but I don't know the backstory about where it began. So I don't want to go back to, you know, sort of post school and post college days. But when did, I know you had your family early.
Yeah.
When did comedy start for you?
It's people always ask me that, and I was 29 when I started in comedy. So I was relatively late, but I feel that I was ready. So I had stuff to talk about. I wasn't just like, you know, an 18-year-old talking about dating apps, or, you know what I mean? So I had a life story, but it was always something which I wanted to do. So even as a kid, you know, watching like Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, but life just got in the way, as it does in terms of having kids, university. I still went to university after having my first daughter. But just life got in the way. And I went through a little bit of I suppose, a funk in my late 20s. I wouldn't say it's like depression or anything like that. It was just more of like just in the funk, I suppose, if that's the right word. And I just thought, I need to do comedy. I need to be who I'm going to be. I went to Singapore for a month to see my uncle, and I was going to move out to Singapore to do recruitment out there. And I wrote a list in terms of the pros and cons of moving. And then I started comedy, and I thought, I just cannot stop this momentum I've got already from comedy from the first gig. Nice. And yeah, I've been here ever since, 14 years deep.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but I just assumed it would be earlier on in your 20s, because you just assume comedians have always been comedians, right?
Yeah.
So I want to go back a little bit further then. So you've had your first child at 18, very early. You've done very well since then, obviously. What happened from 18 to 29? What sort of careers
18
did you
to
have?
29. So 18, doing my A-level still. First job, first full-time job would have been in the job centre, earning £10,038 a year.
Really?
Yeah.
As a full-time employee?
Full-time employee, wow. I remember that. And weird story, my friend was working on the oil rigs. He's running rigs at the moment. And he said, there's a job there for you, mate. Just do your course. So I finished in July in the job centre, 2001, done my offshore survival course. And I was ready. I'd done all the training, the fire training. And then September 11th happened, and there was no jobs in the oil industry at that time. They're taking nobody on. So I had to make a choice. What was I going to do? So I worked in British Gas for about 6 months and then went to university. So I went to university in Swansea. And the reason I chose Swansea was because it was far enough out of Cardiff, so I was out of my comfort zone, but still close enough so I could come back home every weekend.
That must have been quite difficult with a newborn.
Yeah. So we were already split up by then. So, I was still, I was living at home, moving to my mum's. It was good. It was good for me, I feel, because it gave me some independence and just a different perspective of not just being in Butetown and staying in Butetown for the rest of my life.
And then when did the recruitment industry take you?
That's I always thought I'd be quite good at recruitment, even when I was working in the job centre, and nobody would take a chance on me. And then after university, my first job was a company called Adler.
On City Road?
Yeah, they moved from there. So I
so.
was one of the original 12 people in Cardiff Adler. And the person who recruited for that team was Duncan Powell, Yoke Recruitment.
Oh, yeah.
So I met Duncan, he recruited me, and the person sat next to me was a young 21-year-old called Dale Williams. And he said to me, Brito, one day I'll be your boss. And I thought, who is this young kid? And it turns out he turned into, just an amazing businessman. When I sat next to him selling pens and diaries, I realized how great a salesperson he was. And I had to teach myself how to be a salesperson. It just wasn't in my nature. So going back to the recruitment side, Duncan used to sit in and listen to us sell so he could know how to sell the role to people. Dale went to Red Recruitment. About 6 months later, I went to Red Recruitment to do accountancy and finance. Dale was flying doing sales. I struggled doing accountancy and finance. I went to a company called Marble Recruitment then.
They still going?
No, I think they got bought out. But they were doing quite well. And I joined there, fee in my first week, just hit the ground running, that type of stuff. Was office manager then, but I wasn't really managing anybody else. There's a bunch of people there. They went under in the recession, 2008. I left recruitment for a little bit. And then I got back in 2011 with Yoke, and I was working under Mo. And Mo was the best thing for me at that time in terms of that structure and that just pressure from a manager who's hands-on. As you know, you need someone to lead by example and to hold you accountable. and that's what Mo done. And I just started flying in recruitment. I was top biller for a few years, winning awards and just, record. And my life changed basically in terms of, money and salary, etc.
Yeah. What markets were you covering when you were at
I was doing South Wales, Southwest-ish. And we opened up the Bristol office then, and Pav and Aurora came on board, and all tech. So it was all tech. And I had to teach myself to be a bit of just a bastard really in recruitment. You've got to have that cutthroat. And I had to teach myself to be that. And when I went back to Yoke a few years later, people were surprised how mellow I was compared to how I was before, because I'd grown out of that phase. So yeah.
Yeah. What did you do in between that phase then? You left for 3 years, you said?
So I in recruitment, and
that gap.
So that was the funk I hit then in terms of 2008. So I'd done a few different sales roles. I was doing some voiceover work as well. I had a voiceover agent, so it was like entertainment work before I even got into comedy. And then I worked at Admiral. I had a choice. A company called GDS. I'm not sure if you remember those.
GDS Recruitment?
No, they weren't recruit. They were the biggest sharks of sales sharks.
No, I'm not aware.
So they were selling packages for CEOs to go to conferences that didn't exist. Those type of boiler room type of situation. Yeah. You're not allowed to sit down until you made a sale, etc. And I had a choice of earning 30k there or 15, 20k at Admiral. I just thought, I don't think I'm going to like the people I'm working with. So I went to Admiral. Funny enough, built relationships with people in Admiral, left there to go to Yoke, and still have relationships with people in Admiral now in terms of recruitment and things like that. So it's come full circle. So I made a risk there because I just knew I wouldn't last. I wouldn't like it there in GDS.
It's funny you mentioned Adler. I know so many people who have started, like really good salespeople who've started their career in Adler.
It taught me sales.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And then they've gone on to do even better things.
Mate, if you can sell, if it's New Year's Day, 2nd of January 2022, and you're selling diaries for 2023, you're going to be a good salesperson.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've now, we'll fast forward a bit, but we'll stay on the topic of recruitment.
Yeah.
You've now left agency recruitment.
I left agency recruitment and went internal to a client who had that brilliant relationship with the CTO, and he wanted me in to help out on just tech stuff, and then it escalated to doing everything for the business.
Yeah. I don't know how much time you've spent reflecting on like 15 years in recruitment, or maybe 13 years in agency. Sorry, Like what things have you come away from? What things have you taken away from the industry to help you do whatever you do now?
It's that resilience. It's that, you get a lot of no's in comedy. You get, you see a lot of people flying ahead of you sometimes. And it's that resilience of, you're making 100 sales calls a day. You're getting no's. People are not answering to you. People are letting you down constantly on a Sunday night. And we've both been there. Yeah. So it's having that resilience. That's what recruitment taught me. And it's the people skills as well. I know how to present to people. I know how to talk to people. And that's helped me in comedy. It's helped me no end, especially on the business side of comedy when I'm speaking to people in meetings. I'm not just on stage when I'm doing meetings. I can hold my own in those situations. And that's what led me to be a producer.
Yeah. And a lot of those skills have been amplified, or you've got better
100%. It's all recruitment. It's all recruitment.
It's a tough industry to be in.
Yeah.
But if you last as long as you did and had good success, you can learn so much, which will take you wherever.
Exactly.
If you stay in sales, or if you go into your own sort of business like you're doing now with comedy, those sorts of, the resilience thing is huge.
Resilience is the biggest thing I can try to teach my son, just in terms of, you're going to get knocked down, just pick yourself back up. That's the key.
Do you ever miss it, agency recruitment?
No, I don't. I think I'd done my time. I didn't want to go down the management route. I didn't want to be, because I knew comedy was for me. So I didn't want to go down the route where I was almost trapped in recruitment, and I was getting trapped in recruitment. And I'd done my time. My agency work, like when I went back, I'd done executive search, which I loved. And then the pandemic happened. So I switched across within Yoke to just doing my old job. And I'm a married man with kids in his 40s. I'm not going to compete against 20-year-olds getting up in the morning, doing the sales calls, because I'm trying to get breakfast ready in the morning. You can't compete against them. So it was almost like, I've done my time. There's my name on the wall. I'll see you later.
Got the t-shirt.
Yeah. And I moved into internal recruitment, which was great for me because it's strategic. So I could think about things as well and still do the hands-on stuff as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually. So, do you have any advice for someone who is maybe the similar shoes that you were in? So they've done however many years it might be, right? Let's say 8 to 15 years in agency recruitment. they might have a passion elsewhere, or they kind of feel like they want to do something else, but they almost feel attached to recruitment.
Yeah,
because you took a big leap going elsewhere, right? And it's really paying off for you. We can see
yes,
that.
yeah.
What sort of advice could you give there?
It's difficult. It's difficult. So if they wanted to do outside of recruitment or just within something,
outside of recruitment, they might have a passion like you. They might be able to, they really want to do something else, but they're just, recruitment pays well.
it does. Well, that's the thing as well. So I was a comedian who's never slept on anyone's sofa. I was a comedian who was going to Ibiza 3 times a year. I was doing well in comedy, but the day job was day job for dough, showbiz for show. Do you know what I mean? It was like making sure that my bills were paid, we had a nice lifestyle, etc. And there was no shame in working full time because I was managing it well. I was on the biggest TV show in the world, and I had to do an annual leave form to get on that. It was surreal thinking back, but just keep the recruitment side, or maybe if you can go part time, or find something which is a little bit less demanding in terms of bringing in that 15K a month. Every single month you need that 15K. Finding something you got a little bit more flexibility, which I did find, and I was able to make that transition.
The internal stuff.
Yes, yeah. And then the transition, the landing was a little bit easier for me, just in terms of being able to work from home. The pandemic helped. I was working from home. My office was like a stone's throw, but I was never in the office.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, but the reason being for that is that I was the only recruiter in the business. So if I'm on the phone to people speaking salaries and things like that.
But there's no need.
There's no need as well. There's no need, yeah.
So you started comedy at 29.
Yes.
When did you leave agency recruitment? Roughly?
2022,
So what age would you have been then?
41.
So that 10, 12 years, like how did you balance 2 big things, right? Because recruitment is very demanding. We both
Very
know that.
demanding,
But how did you manage also trying to grow a comedy?
Yes, yeah. I was writing and doing, I was on a sitcom as well at the same time. There was no other option. So I'd get up early in the morning, I'd do my writing, I'd do my work, and then I'd go to gigs, family time, etc. So it was just managing that. The weird thing is, now that I've got all this time, I don't know what to do with myself. So it's almost like, I could deal with the day job because I'm used to, juggling so much.
Used to high pressure, high demands.
Yes, yeah, and having that structure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a weird one.
And what about your kids? Because obviously you've been doing all this with growing a family as well.
Mm-hmm.
Have they been supportive, the right word, or have they been understanding that sometimes you're a day job and then also going to a comedy gig in the evening?
Yeah, exactly. So it has been difficult. I mean, the younger ones were young, so they were just going through school. I mean, the youngest is 4, so she's not even in full-time school yet. So it's nice now that I can do the school runs. And I've been doing the school runs, working from home, etc. But I've got more time, since I've left recruitment. If my daughter wants to go to the park after school, I can, because I'm not on a call to a .NET developer who doesn't want to speak to me. Yeah. So I've got that flexibility. And then they'll say, are you working tonight? And they know that I'm going to work somewhere. But I try not to work, like I wouldn't be flying up to Scotland for the gig for one day. So I was in London on Friday. I didn't even know where I was on Saturday. So it's just, around everywhere.
Did they ever go with you?
No.
Did they watch you?
No, 8, 9 and 4 don't.
No.
Yeah. My son does. I mean, he came to New York with me a few times and done stuff, and he's doing a media production degree, so he filmed some stuff. He filmed the first gig.
I've seen him there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very tall lad.
Yeah, he's a good kid. He's I'm proud of him. Yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah.
So he's come to a few gigs, and I talk about him quite a lot in my set. Mm-hmm. But they just understand that this is Daddy's work, and then sometimes, like a few weeks ago, I was filming something for the BBC, and they came into my living room and made it like this, and the kids thought it was surreal. There's all lights and everything in the living room. So
Get on the Instagram and stuff.
Yeah. Well, a 9-year-old would be nowhere near Instagram, mate. Yeah. But it's interesting. It's a weird one, and then like she loves Michael McIntyre, and I'll show her a picture of me working with Michael McIntyre. Then it's weird because she's finally clicking, and then she showed her friends I was on iPlayer and things like that.
Nice. Yeah, I bet they love that, and they'll understand more as they grow up.
Yeah, understand the sacrifices. Sometimes I'm away. Like Birmingham's the furthest, so I was in Birmingham 2 weeks ago just for the weekend, and I missed her delayed birthday party like 3 weeks later. Yeah. So yeah.
So going back to when you started comedy 29, when was the first big thing that you did for comedy, whether that be a show or whatever it might be? What was the first thing you can remember?
My first gig, I remember every single moment of my first gig.
Can you? Go on, talk us through it.
It's almost like a before and after Rebirth. So it was February 18th, 2011, and it was in Chapter Arts in Cardiff, little open mics, that thing. And one of my, he's still a close friend now, Clint Edwards, gave me the gig. And he was just like, "You sure this is your first gig? You seem quite relaxed." I was like, "I'm fine." And you could speak to me before a gig and I'll be speaking like this because it's just natural to me. There's no difference between me speaking now to you and the person you see on stage. Hopefully that comes across like I'm not like a character. So I got up, I'd done my 5 minutes, and I didn't sleep until about 7 o'clock in the morning because the adrenaline pumping through me, and I was hooked. Really? And the longest I've ever had as a break was during lockdown because I wouldn't do the gigs online. I thought it's not. I'm a stand-up comedian in person. I'm not doing those things.
I can't imagine a gig online is.
They're horrible. I've done a few, but then they asked me to like set up my living room. I'm like, I got children going to bed. My wife's pregnant. I'm not dancing in the living room like some little performing monkey for 20 quid. No. It's like, I'm all right. And I had a day job, so I didn't have to make those stupid decisions.
Nice, you had the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
really, back on it in hindsight.
Yeah. So I was still working every single day during lockdown as a recruiter, as you know. Yeah.
So that first gig that you remember, did you bomb the classic? bomb?
No. I was good. Yeah. I was good, surprisingly. We all bombed. I mean, Saturday, that's where I was. I was in Oxford. Didn't have the greatest gig, but you get used to it. You have these moments, and it's just like, yeah, that's done. Let's move on. Nice. It's not going to happen for a long time.
Yeah. I think people who don't. Well, I'm speaking from my perspective, right? People who don't do comedy or understand like the whole performance act, like they always not obsessed, but they think about that bomb and how bad it will be. Like, is there any times in your career where you've had like a really bad bomb? You
die, but you think you're dying, but the audience don't. Yeah. You're standard. So
you think it's way worse than it is.
The Glee Club gig, I thought I died on my ass, but you thought it was good.
But you had people laughing, not like everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, but it wasn't what I wanted.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you haven't had any times where you've gone to deliver a punchline or a joke and
there's been loads of times. There's been numerous times. Like, it happens once every 10 to 12 months. Yeah. Just a gig. You're like, oh wow. Like, I come off stage on a Saturday, and I thought, ooh, and the other comics know as well. They're like, yeah, it's a bit, yeah. And I still got a clip out of it, and it's gone quite well. So yeah.
So, if I'm right, then you will go around to different shows and test material.
Yeah.
So how many, like what percentage of shows or how many shows per month or year are like testing shows?
New material. I try to do like at least one new material show every week. I do one every week, and I do a longer one then. So on Wednesday, I'm in Barry doing an hour of my new material, which is now formulated to the show you'll see in June, which you're coming to, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Glee Club again. I think I've been to maybe not every one, but certainly I think 3 or 4 now.
You came to
front row in the BBC, which we'll get on to.
Yes, you came to the original show.
Yeah, live in Cardiff, that one. The original show as well.
Yeah, the Leroy one. But I've done loads before that. So I've done in the Millennium Centre and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Super fan.
Yeah, of course, man. Got to support Cardiff's most famous comedian.
Trying to be.
Yeah.
Trying to be.
So that first gig you still remember, which is great. I love that.
Yeah, I love it. I got the footage.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it? Like a linear path then where it just like consistently went up, or when you look back, how was it to now? If
you zoom out, it's a linear path, but if you zoom in, you'll see the ups and downs and the self-doubt and the flat lining for the few months and thinking. And it's funny, I was speaking to my friend last year and I was frustrated because every year I'm in the mix for the Apollo and you find out in August time. And I was just going through a little bit of a situation, and I realized, I said to him, this is just growing pains. I've hit a certain level in comedy, which I've grown, and now I'm trying to break through the next level. And then once I do that, and I'd done that last year, got the special, done loads of tour support for people. So then you're on the next level of, you're at the next mountain to climb. So you're going to keep having a bit of perspective. So you look back, and we always say, like, to my friends, like, just look back of where you were. Like, I was moaning last year to myself and my little WhatsApp group, like, I didn't get Apollo. And then I thought, get a grip of yourself. You just messaged Rod Gilbert, and he's coming back to you to give you advice on how to film your special. Get some perspective in it,
We always want what we haven't got. Right? It's the same in recruitment. You've got X, Y, Z, but you didn't get this. And you're like,
I missed out on that extra bump.
And it's the same in recruitment. Comedy is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's life though, isn't it? And you've got to deal with the losses.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with the perceived losses, because from the outside it looks great. From the inside, you've got your own expectations of what you want things to be.
Yeah. So you've started your comedy journey. You're still working in recruitment, of course.
Yes,
You
yes.
had your blip. You've come back to recruitment. Like when did comedy pick up? And you were like, do you know what? I can put an extra 20-30% of my time into this now, and maybe slow down in recruitment. How long did that take?
I always believed the comedy was the main thing for me, and recruitment was just paying the bills. So in terms of like that ramping up, I suppose it was like the last year before. So I was always busy in comedy and doing my own things. But then when I'm selling shows and things like that, that's when you think I can, you knew it already, but you can make that move. And bear in mind, I've got lots of moving parts in terms of, my wife and her expectations and the children, etc., and, mortgage payments and things like that. But I knew that I could actually do it. Yeah.
Did you ever have an agent? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
to help
I've
you
had
along the
agents,
way?
So this is
How
an odd one.
beneficial are they?
So last year I dropped my agent in February in terms of great guys, but it wasn't working for me. They were dropping the ball a few times.
On what particularly?
Just missing bookings, and like I was doing most of the work, and just things were being dropped, and it was amicable. And I was looking for an agent for a year, and it was the weirdest thing because I'm messaging them. I'm saying I'm on Baby Reindeer. I've just sold out my own tour. I do support for Rod Gilbert, Mo Gilligan. I've got my own special on the BBC. And they're like, yeah. Some people didn't even come back to me. And then when I met with the agents, a few of them, I realized that some of them just haven't got a clue what's going on. It's like recruiters. There's some really good ones, and then the other ones are just coasting and hoping to get lucky. And then I signed with a new agent last month, and it's been class. I'm glad I waited it out for this one.
Yeah. Well, where's that agent based?
She's based in London.
I was going to say, do you think this might be completely wrong, right? But I'm speaking from a technology recruitment perspective because that's what I do. If you want investment, you go to London because the South Wales scene is pretty small. Yeah. Is it the same for comedy or some similarities?
It's a weird one. So people just think that London's paved with gold, and and you go to London, and it's a weird one because I'm almost unknown in London on the open mic circuit, which is fine by me because that's 10 years ago for me. I do the Comedy Store, I do the Boat Show, I do Up the Creek, I do big shows there. And when I go there, some of the acts don't know me, and I turn up and just smash the gig as the finished product. And then when I go to London for TV, I've done all my apprentice in BBC Wales. I've done presenting, I've done TV acting work, I've got my own special. So I've done all that work without making my mistakes in public up there. So London's fine for me, but it's a weird one. I wouldn't move up there.
Yeah. But do you think the agents are all down there?
They are. It's very London centric. And the industry's moved into, I think this goes back to one of the flaws in the agency model is that they're very reactive. So they just want to see your followers. And if you haven't got 100,000 followers, and if you have got 100,000 followers, how can we monetize this person before they're ready? So you see a lot of acts who are massive on TikTok, and then they've got to do an hour show, and they're doing 20 minutes on a show, and people are unhappy with them because they're not ready. They haven't paid their dues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying agents are prioritizing social media engagement or certainly followers?
Yeah, of course that. Because it's the easiest metric to sell.
Yeah.
This guy got 100,000 followers, but they may not be ready. So I'm glad that I've got the skills before the social media blows up.
Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned a couple of things there. So Baby Reindeer, BBC special.
Yeah.
Give us an overview of some of your proudest achievements to date and from a comedy perspective, and we'll touch on a few of those.
Yeah, the special is probably the crowning achievement of last year. I've already moved on in terms of what I wanted to do next year, but in terms of being able to repitch it to the BBC, get their trust in me, and then pull everything together myself. So it was myself, my friend Gavin Porter, a director of photography, and Ignacio Lopez is a comic as well. He directed it. But I was the producer for this, so I sorted out the guest list where everyone sat. I sorted out the cameras and everything, the venue, everything there was me booking everything. And then I had to switch and do the performance side of things. And while I'm performing, I had to think in terms of where the cameras are and thinking as a producer. And then, as you saw at the end, I had to do the pickups and think of what I didn't do and things like that. So then that's that done.
That's a huge amount of work.
Yeah.
Did you want it done that way?
Control,
like a
100% control, 100% control, because it was my presentation to the world, and then that was filmed mid-September. Went to Ibiza with the boys for my mate's birthday. Come back on a Sunday, had an email with the CEO of the company I worked for, meeting with HR on Monday morning, you're redundant.
When was this? This was close to the BBC special.
This was like a week after.
Oh wow!
So I'm first thing I'm thinking is I shouldn't have paid 30 quid for a bottle of water in Ushuaia if I'm being made redundant. So then I was going through the whole process of that redundancy, and it was quite a painful redundancy, as you know, whilst editing this special.
Wow!
So it put a little. It was a weird one because it puts a little bad taste in your mouth, but at the same time you're like, I don't even need that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that part of me is dead now.
Almost a blessing.
Yes, yeah. And it's, you know, there's a lot of, you know, scary out there. You know, technically I'm living my dream, but no one says how hard your dream is to live every day. And you probably know this as well in terms of every day staying ahead of the curve for yourself. So
people just see what's on social media.
They do. Oh, I love your reels. Okay, buy some tickets then, please.
Yeah. Just liking the post. Oh, you're doing so well. You look like you're smashing it.
Yeah.
Well, it's just social media.
Exactly.
That's how it's portrayed.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're almost like riding the wave still of you've done your special, you're in Ibiza, and then that comes. It's like, you know, life's really testing you there, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. But it's like I've been through worse.
Yeah.
I've been through. Is that the worst you can throw at me? Yeah.
So you've done the editing as well?
I've done the edit. I was there. Everything I was involved.
You've done, you know, everything, the full package.
Yeah, I didn't edit it myself. I was sat in the edit, and said which, you know, but I didn't
what
technically.
Proud achievement.
Yeah, so that's that.
Have you gained any business opportunities or anything?
I think so. I think so, and I think, you know, it's the thing of being on iPlayer, you know, like applying for gigs now, and I've got I got two agents at the moment. One does my TV work, one does the live stuff. And before I had to sign with this lady as well, I'd send emails and they'd say, can you send me a clip? I'd say, well, go on iPlayer. You know, it just gives you more authority.
It's perception.
It's a perception, mate.
From an agency perspective, someone says, can I have a review? Or you send them a review on your LinkedIn, but if you've got like a video testimonial, which we've got, just cements it.
Cements 100%.
BBC iPlayer, huge.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So what's, you know, with the BBC, is that relationship still there? And is it
relationship's
anyway?
great. Yeah, so I'm pitching at the moment some serious documentaries, just as a producer and presenter, because I like presenting. I've done that type of stuff before.
What sort of documentaries?
Yeah, so there's one for Black History Month, and more historical stuff. And I'd like to do one about teenage fatherhood as well. I had a commission a few years ago for a radio version of it, but I wasn't mentally ready to go back to that person, because it was tough. Like being 18, it's tough, you know, and you just try to deal with it and move on. And I wasn't ready to look back and explore that
and feel those emotions.
Yeah, I wasn't, and I wasn't experienced enough as a presenter and producer to actually go there. Yeah.
And now you are?
Hopefully. So I've got a few different ideas, writing scripts as well. So I've, you know, sitcom scripts. I've had a few different development. I've wrote for children's TV as well. So yeah.
That's a good relationship to have, that BBC one.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So it's good. And then, just trying to, you know, I'm not really an actor. I've done acting, but I'm not an actor. I act in my own stuff. But if any little parts come up, I'd do that. But if it's like meaty roles, it's somebody else. Someone asked, I got an email the other day, can you do a scene, massive sitcom, be it in your boxer shorts, you're going to kiss someone on the bed. It's like, I'm 43 married, come on, man.
With kids.
With kids. It's like, do I? And I said no, and it's the power of saying no. Yeah. Because like, why? Like,
do you ask how much they're paying first?
I didn't even ask. I didn't want to be in that. I didn't want to be in that situation, just in case I had to, like, Kieran, I need to go on one of those 50k runs with you tomorrow. Yeah.
Nice. So you mentioned about acting there. So you were in Baby Reindeer.
Yes.
Talk to us about that. How on earth did that come about?
It's a very weird one, and things. I might sound a little bit like hippie-ish, and things just going in the right direction for you, but. As I said, you get the call about Apollo, late August, September. As you probably know, I'm usually in Ibiza late August, September, and I was waiting for it, and my best friend phoned me and said I got Apollo, which gave me just like the lowest doof for 10 seconds, and I thought, shut up, your best friend's just living his dream. It means that I didn't get it, but he's got it, so I was happy for him. And then my agent phoned me and said, oh, you didn't get it. I was like, never mind. And then a day later, he said, could you tape for this part? I was like, I'm not really an actor. He's like, but it's like playing a compere in a comedy club. I said, well, okay, I'll try to do it. I read it, didn't really read it that good. And then my wife and my daughter was about 6 at the time. She's like, you gotta do it properly, like you're on stage. And I'd done it. I got the part. And then mid-September, I had to go to London, stayed at my brother's house in Twickenham, and the trains were messed up. So I had to go past Hammersmith and I had to walk past the Apollo as they were filming Apollo. And I'm seeing people I know having their photos outside of Apollo. And it was a weird one. It's like, but I'm filming this TV thing. I don't know how big it's going to be. You don't have a clue.
You had no idea?
No idea. So then you get picked up in the morning and it was like a nice Mercedes. They took me to Bethnal Green and I get onto the location because the location was somewhere else where they were from where they're filming. And I got to sit on the bus, which is the bus is where all the extras and everyone there. And they pulled me and said, no, it's your trailer. I was like, I got a trailer? This sounds good. Filmed the scene with Richard Gadd. Done that scene about 100 times throughout the day, cameras in your face everywhere. Forgot about it for the year, 2 years, I think it was. So September, 3 years ago, Baby Reindeer. April last year, I get an email to go to the premiere. I was doing an open mic night, working new material that night, so I said no. Then it came out, and people are messaging me, say, "Oh, you're on this show." So I had to watch it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this now. It's the biggest show in the world," but they didn't even show my face. They showed the back of me, if you remember.
Oh, did it? Well, do you know what? Admittedly, I haven't watched it.
You haven't seen it?
No. I'm one of those guys. If something's got too much fire on it and everyone's watching it, I'll avoid it for a bit.
Like
So
me too.
I've never watched it.
Me too. Like Drake. I don't listen to Drake.
Yeah. I've never watched it, but I know you're in it. Mm-hmm. And but they just showed the back of you.
Showed the back of me. You can hear my voice. Quite a distinctive voice.
Yeah. And from the day of filming, it was 2 years until they released it.
A year and a half. Yeah.
Probably forgot about it by that.
Yeah, because you only get paid a small amount of money for your part.
Yeah.
So, and it's just, so I make a little joke about when they win like Emmy Awards and Grammys and stuff like that. Thanks, guys, for all that. Yes, yeah.
So what was the filming experience like? You said 100 times. I'm sure it was a lot of times, right? Of filming in your face and
different angles and I know that one scene inside out from everybody's part, but I know nothing about the rest of the show. So I didn't realize how dark the show was until I saw the show. But Richard was amazing. Just spent the whole day with him. He's rewriting the script as he goes and everything, and it was all his show. So yeah, it was an amazing experience seeing someone take control of their destiny and make something themselves.
And it was your current agents that you've got now who managed to get that gig?
No, it wasn't my previous agents.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that route you want to go down? You want to do some more TV appearances? I know you said you're not an actor, right? But do you want to?
No, stand-up is the totem for me.
Yeah.
Everything revolves around stand-up. So, I do little bits of acting if it can service comedy. I do presenting if it can service comedy. But everything services comedy. So for me, Saturday Night Live, hosting that one day, doing the monologue, that's where I want to be. So everything serves going to that direction.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. So those are two big achievements. I know you've done Glee many times.
Oh yeah, it's my home.
How many times have you done that solo?
Solo shows. So we had 2 last year. I'd done one 2017 there. But before that, I was over the Millennium Centre. I had a relationship with them.
And I went to both of those. They were incredible.
It's the Millennium Centre?
No, not the Millennium Centre.
Oh, the Glee. You went to the Glee.
Yeah.
You're still in school by then.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Had to ask Mum to come out.
Yeah.
What about the ones where you're sharing the stage with other people? I actually think I noticed you recently.
Oh, yeah, I'm there. So I just done the Oxford Glee this weekend, Birmingham Glee last weekend, Cardiff Glee a few weeks ago. So I couldn't tell you how many times I've been on that stage.
Enough.
It's my home. It's my home. Yeah. So my 5th ever gig was there, and it's like Wembley. It's one of the best clubs in the UK at least.
I love Cardiff Glee.
Yes, yeah.
What about like camaraderie between different comedians? Yeah. Is there that brotherhood where people will help you out because you've done some comedy with them on Glee Club potentially? Oh no, you need to speak to Leroy. Here's some introductions.
So
is that there?
If people come to Cardiff, they need something. Hopefully they can call me. Just put them in directions or things like that. The higher you go, the nicer they are, though, I found. It's... Are
you referencing anyone in particular?
The people I've worked with at the top, worldwide level are absolutely... I remember I was taken into the green room to see Lee Evans when he was doing his run in Cardiff Glee, and he was one of the nicest men I've ever met. He just took time to speak to me about my career, and I remembered that, and then, I probably told you I met Dave Chappelle in New York, and... he gave me time, and it's probably like 2 or 3 minutes of his day. But for me, the time he took and the authenticity of that time meant a lot to me.
So powerful.
Yeah, yes, and it was only, and I saw a video of him talking about how he likes to meet people, and when he didn't know who I was, and I said I'm a comic then, and the guard went down even further, and it was just a conversation between two comics, and it was beautiful. Yeah.
From his perspective, so that's only 2 minutes of his day, and you still remember how many years later?
3 years later.
Yeah, and it's you still hold it so
exactly.
strongly.
Yeah.
And you think of him as such a great person.
Exactly.
From that one
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, and then I've done loads of work with Rod, and he's everything you want Rod Gilbert to be.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Mo Gilligan's the same, Gus Cahn's the same, Richard Blackwood, absolutely love. It's like speaking to an older brother, Richard Blackwood. So yeah.
He's hilarious.
He's
seen
hilarious.
him on
he's an
the
absolute,
Mo Gilligan tour last year.
Yeah, he's an absolute legend as well in terms of what he'd done in the 90s and 2000s. You're probably too young for.
Was he on Emmerdale? Was it Emmerdale?
This version of Richard Blackwood has been on EastEnders, Hollyoaks, etc.
Okay, Hollyoaks.
The Richard Blackwood that I know was on The Real McCoy, and then he was one of the only black people on TV, and he used to do Total Request Live or something like that, MTV, Leicester Square with Donna Eyre. It was his show, and everybody would watch that one show every single day, and he'd have everybody coming through. Anybody who was famous would come through and meet with Richard Blackwood, and that's the Richard Blackwood I remember.
And that was 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Wow.
And he's a superstar. Yeah.
And he's still going now.
He's still going now. Yeah.
He's still doing the tours in Mo
He's still,
Gilligan, right?
yeah. I supported him last month on tour, Richard Blackwood.
Did you?
Yeah, sharing the glee.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the Mo Gilligan relationship, that was, how long have you known Mo?
It's a weird one. So I met him when he was tour support for another comic, Dane Baptiste in Cardiff. And we just had a drink and was cool and everything. And he was a lovely guy, and then he blew up, and he's exactly the same guy.
Really?
Yes, yeah. So then he brought me onto his podcast in London, and then he had me supporting him in the Cardiff Arena, 5,000 people, of my own people.
That was last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
Time flies.
It does.
That was last year.
It does,
Okay.
mate. Yeah.
What's do you notice any characteristic traits between people at the top level of comedy? Obviously, they're nice.
Yeah.
Apart from that, versus people who are at the lower levels, like in terms of mindset, attitude.
It's the toxic competitiveness. It's at the lower levels, which you're gonna have because it doesn't. There's a lot of weirdos in comedy. There's a hell of a lot of weirdos in comedy.
From what angle?
Every type of spectrum of weird, from there in comedy.
Okay.
Yes. A lot of characters, shady, desperate, unhealthy. A lot of them are unhealthy. So you see a lot of that because there's more of them on that level of circuit. I've moved on from that. I've never really paid attention because I've never done Edinburgh. So I'm not spending a month with them. If I'm at a gig, I do my thing and then I go home because I've got a family. I'm not getting drunk with a 25-year-old comic sleeping on someone's sofa. So I'm removed from all that, but I hear stories and lots of weirdos. But the higher you go, the nicer, the more self-assured people are. There's nerves, there's self-doubt, etc. But there's not. They're nicer. They're nicer.
Yeah, I imagine from what you've said, there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
So everyone wants to get out. No, I want to break it past this barrier here.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the top, when you've got that freedom, you get in shows. You can be more of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You're living a nice life. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I shouldn't ask that question.
Go on.
I was going to ask some questions in terms of like stories from your when you were coming up.
Yeah.
Of both angles really. Was there any like real situations or stories where you were shocked at how kind someone was or helped you? And then also, was there any really foul plays where you're like, oh, that wasn't so cool?
No, because I think I hold myself in a certain way so people don't, they wouldn't try to take advantage of me. And if they did, I think I would call her out quite quickly. So I haven't really had those experiences, and I'm not around long enough with these people to give them the opportunity. I haven't let them into my world.
So you really have the best of both worlds, where you've got the income coming in, and you've built up comedy over the years.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've done it, the right way for me.
So going back to you, you've done your Cardiff live special, doing the edits, you come back from Ibiza.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've had the redundancy, which is horrible, especially in the market that we're in right now.
Yeah,
so how did you navigate that, and how's things since?
It's been all right. It's as I say, living your dream, but it's hard. But I've been grinding. I've been grinding. I've been meetings. I've been making stuff. Done a few different like social media campaigns for businesses, gigging constantly. So I'm constantly creating. But I've got quite a lot of time, so I'm just trying to find that structure. Yeah.
Do you want to go back into internal recruitment? Is that?
Do you know, I'd be open, but it'd have to be the right role because I know how to manage both sides of the coin. But it'd have to be the right role, maybe a contract, something like that.
And comedy's not quite there to be completely full time.
Well,
40 hours a week.
It's been like that for a number of years. But the full time comics that I know were always scratching for pennies. I just thought you're working 20 minutes a night, possibly 3 nights a week,
and a lot of traveling.
A lot of traveling, if you want to. But yeah, I've got time to do other things. But I like the lifestyle I'm living at the moment. But I could do something else, to scratch that itch as well. Yeah.
You mentioned Ibiza quite a lot in this podcast.
Yeah.
I think I know the reason why it's so important to you. But where did the love come from for Ibiza?
It's a weird one. So I never went until I was like mid-30s.
A very late start again.
Yeah, because I was scared. You're too young to remember this, but there was a show called Ibiza Uncovered back in the late 90s.
No, that would
and
be
it
way
was
too early
just,
for me,
it was like showing the strip of San Antonio, showing them the clubs, and you'd have like, I'm not sure how you could describe this, but someone who was born short, giving their self-pleasure on stage. And I thought, I'm not going anywhere near this. And I went for my brother's birthday, and it was like amazing. Then me and my wife decided to get married there, and the kids love it. So, it's such a different island from what you imagine it to be.
There's two sides, isn't there?
If you want
the party side.
If you want that, that's there for you. But there's other things for we go as a family, the 4-year-old saying, how many days until I beat them now? So, yeah.
You still going every year?
Yes, we're booked for August time now.
Nice.
Yeah, school holidays. Yeah.
So what's happening moving forward from comedy perspective?
Comedy perspective, keep on grinding. So this new tour, All In. So I start in Machynlleth in May.
Machynlleth,
where's
that? You pronounced that very well.
I know, I've had to learn. It's a comedy festival. It's one of the best comedy festivals in the UK.
And where is it?
Mid Wales.
Mid Wales,
Mid-West Wales. So they're starting, it's called MacFest. So the tour starts there. Got a London date, Burnham, Bristol, Cardigan, because there's a lovely lot of gig in Cardigan. But Cardiff Glee is the one, 25th of June. So yeah, hopefully we sell that out again.
What does that tour involve?
That is talking about everything we've talked about here, funny enough. So in terms of, it's called All In, because I'm all in for comedy. So
and this is just you?
Just me.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Traveling around with other people.
No. This is just me doing an hour. So talking about the redundancy process, talking about, taking risks, living your dream, the difficulty of living your dream. And, just like if it doesn't work out, am I going to go on OnlyFans or something like that? So it's talking about those things and just talking about life. Yeah.
Nice. And it's relatable.
Hopefully.
Whatever you talk about, there'll be someone in the audience who's had an experience of one of the things that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think so. I think in terms of redundancy and stuff, and people are surprised that I worked a full-time job.
Alongside the comedy.
Yeah. People were surprised, but it's like there was no shame in doing that because, I was earning money for my family.
Well, you had the best of both worlds, like you said.
I did,
you
yeah.
Earning money, eating good food, had a family, raising a family, and then doing comedy on the side.
Yeah.
So you've also got the Glee Club in June.
Yeah.
Hopefully sell out that again. And what else for the rest of the year? Do you have any, what's the goals? What do you want to do?
The goals this year are get a sitcom in development. I think, the sitcoms I've got previously have been close. So I had development money and options and things like that. But if I can get it off the ground, that'd be great. Grow my following. And I know we talked about social media earlier, but I think in terms of I'm ready for that next step in terms of the following to then be able to do bigger shows.
How do you do that? How are you going to grow your following?
Well, I'm trying to be as consistent as possible every day, trying to put out, material, content. And years ago, it was a thing in comedy, like you don't give away your jokes, but now you have to. You have to try to keep growing that fan base.
Keep attention on you.
Yeah. Because so just trying to do that. My podcast as well, Moment of Truth podcast, talking to sports stars about those pivotal moments in their career. I'd love to build that into something bigger. So that could be doing it more face-to-face. That could be live shows, etc. So we'll see. And then the documentary side as well, I like doing that. So that's all through my media company, Brito Media, my production company. But everything just funnels back into stand-up and doing ideally bigger tours. And this is recording, so in a few years' time, they're building that new arena down the bay.
Oh yeah, I've seen the works.
Yeah. I've got that just pinpointed for my, solo show to sell that out.
Nice.
Yeah.
So loads going on.
Yeah, busy, mate.
What about
And I've got this book to read.
That to read, which should take you all of 24 hours. It's
brilliant.
Short, sharp, and action-packed.
Yeah.
What about personally? I know you've been on your running journey. You had an injury, right?
Yeah, I've been injured, but I'm still running. So actually, funny enough, I'm running I'm not doing the Swansea half this year. The reason being is because the foot is still a little bit battered. So I'm doing the Cardiff half this year, and then next year I'm climbing the Sierra Nevada mountain range for Velindre. So I'm raising money for Velindre cancer charity. So all my tour shows, I'll have a bucket there after the show and a QR code so people can donate and hopefully raise money for this brilliant cause.
Nice. Will this be the last marathon before you hang up the boots? You reckon?
No, I think I'll start. It's only a half.
Half, sorry.
Yeah,
half,
I'm not you, mate. I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
So I've done a full marathon.
I know you have.
But that was like 2 days after my 40th. So,
But
yeah.
you've still got a few more halves in you.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy the running.
I think I'm tempted by that super halves.
Where you have to go to the different cities?
Yeah.
Where are they?
So, as you report, do you know David Jenkins?
Yeah.
He's done a few. So he was away this weekend, actually. I'm not sure where, but Lisbon's one. Prague, maybe. Cardiff's one.
Oh, so Cardiff is one of them. Yeah, we've looked at this recently as well.
I was looking at New York as well, New York Marathon.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'll be going over there for a while, just in terms of I don't want to wake up in a detention center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's like, so I've got relationships with loads of clubs out there.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit weird over there.
We've done well over there, though, haven't you?
Last year I had my, I'm closing shows in Manhattan on the Friday night with my son next to me, so you can't get better than that.
Yeah.
That was a highlight as well, because as a kid watching Seinfeld and everything, just New York is like the Mecca. So to be able to do that in New York,
you've achieved so much, but I can even tell you,
mate.
Like me and like everyone else, you're still thinking about the next thing.
100%.
It's funny how
people
it
say,
works.
"Oh, you're doing amazing." It's like I'm not even started.
I haven't even got there.
Yeah.
But when you speak about your achievements, you've done so well.
You look back and you're like, "Yeah, that's pretty
done
dope." Yeah,
but I want more.
100%.
It's the same in recruitment.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Legacy, innit?
Yeah. I've really enjoyed this conversation today.
Yeah, mate. It's been great to speak to you.
Anything that you wish we spoke about? Any sort of topics about upcoming things people might want to be aware
No, I
of?
think it's just the tour is the one. We're trying to sell tickets for the tour. That's the key.
Buy some tickets.
Buy some tickets for the tour.
Yeah.
Go onto the Glee Club website or leroybrito.co.uk.
We'll include the link. I've never done this before, but
Like,
we'll include.
I've tried to do that.
How do you
I
do
can't
it?
do
We'll
it.
include some link
Yes,
somewhere. Yeah. This one here.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it today. Thank you very much
Brilliant.
for coming on.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Pleasure. And that was a really interesting conversation with Leroy Brito. He spent 15 years in recruitment and 13 of those being in agency recruitment, like me. He's managed and juggled a comedy career on the side, as well as raising a family, and I couldn't be more proud of him as a friend. For anyone that's aware of Leroy and his comedy skills, I'm sure you're a big fan like me. If you're not, he's got a show coming up in the Glee Club in Cardiff in June, so please go and buy some tickets so we can sell out this show again. If you enjoyed this one, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and let us know who you want to see on the podcast next.